Welcome to your Magical Life podcast,
a sacred space to explore, create, and manifest more magic into your daily life.
I'm Crystal, homeschool mom to two wildlings and lover of all things witchy and magical.
And I'm Ash, your resident art witch and priestess, helping you trust your intuition through art and divination.
Hey, Ash, it is good to see you again. How are you?
I'm good. I'm glad to be here. It's going to be a fun episode, fun to record, and I'm glad that things are actually all working so far. Knock on wood.
Yes, we have had some tech issues, but we are making our offerings to Mercury Hermes for beautiful, lovely, easy tech support. Yes, I am excited for today.
I offered Hekate's name and said I would share her name, and she lets us talk about witchcraft.
Excellent. I love it. I love it. I mean, speaking of candles, we'll show off our candles because this is a good ritual for, our Ostara episode because it is all about the flames and new beginnings. So, I have a
Exactly.
dragonfly candle out. I've
I
been
love
feeling
it.
strongly called to work with the dragonfly, animal spirit. This candle is actually from the Spirit Guide Apothecary. He makes them handmade and they all have intentions and these beautiful, I don't know if you can see it, but it really has like a ritual on here and more about the animal spirit guide. So I just love these candles. And this is actually for transformation and insight. So that is, I think, interesting as we are shifting seasons here. Ostara is the spring equinox. And when we're talking about, the wheel of the year, which we touched on in our magical definitions episode, is a nature-based calendar, basically. They split the whole year into a wheel. 8, is it correct? 8?
Yeah. Yep.
8 parts. And so I've always learned that Ostara is actually the beginning of the wheel, the new year. And so I love it because by March, April, which is when the spring equinox usually is, it's like, okay, well, 2023 isn't, shaping up exactly how I had wanted in January. I made all these New Year's resolutions and I had intentions and I focused my energy for the year to go a certain way. And now, March, April, those resolutions have dropped off. Things just aren't shaping up in that same energy as we had in January. And in January, you're in the depths of winter, so like
It's too
energetically,
much.
yeah, your mindset
It's too
isn't
much to do in January.
in the place right after
Yeah,
Christmas and all the holidays. Like,
exactly.
so after I think what I love about the Wheel of the Year is it really just asks you to honor what nature, honors and energetically, so the winter is time to go within and time to rest and retreat, hibernate. And then as spring starts to come, you start to feel that energy coming back. You start to feel the fire and, you start to see the new shoots and buds start to pop up of the plants, that of the seeds that you had planted, so I do. I love
Exactly.
this season. I love that it's a chance at a new year. Even other cultures, like in the Persian culture, Nowruz is their new year, the Persian New Year, and that is the spring equinox. So their whole calendar is based on the beginning of the new year is spring because it
That's
makes
really
sense.
cool. It does.
Yeah.
That makes so much more sense than trying to do your resolutions in January, which I
Exactly.
do mine at Samhain anyways. And then I have that list of things that I want to accomplish the next year, just kind of percolating in the back of my mind while I'm resting and doing all the other things in November and December and January.
I
But
love
now that
that.
it's spring,
Right.
now the energy is coming back, like you said. So now it's time to be like, okay, here are the things I said I wanted to do.
Right.
Let's get to it.
I love that, and I love that your practice is your practice, and my practice is my practice, and every listener can take what they like from our podcast and what we do and apply it to their own life in a way that works for them and feels like it resonates, you know what I mean? And
Exactly.
a wheel is a circle. It has no beginning or end. So no one is right. No one is wrong. I really am very against prescriptive practices. Like I was watching this one about, yesterday, we're filming this at the beginning of March. Yesterday was the 1st of March. And on the 1st of the month, I have a ritual of blowing salt and cinnamon into your door. You put it into your left hand and you blow it in to welcome
Nice.
abundance, cinnamon, and
I
also for
like it.
protection.
Mhm.
And you let it sit there 24 hours and then you sweep it up. So I've known about this, but I saw a video of a creator I really like on TikTok, and I did end up sharing his video, but I added my own little bit. But he said it has to be sea salt, only sea salt, and it must be ground cinnamon. And I was just like, no, it's all about intention. If I have Himalayan salt and that's all I got, and I imbue it with protection, it's absolutely going to work the same as his sea salt. You know what I mean? And so
Yeah.
I think everyone needs to use what they have, and it's all about intention.
My magical herbs come from the grocery aisle or the herb aisle at the grocery store.
Absolutely right.
I don't think I've ever purchased something just for my practice. Like, I have purchased it for cooking, and then, like, "Okay, this works in my office too," and then I have to, figure out where I left it last.
Me
Kitchen or office.
Totally. I have done that as well, like, needing an ingredient for something, be like, "Oh, where's that twine? Oh, it's in the magic drawer. Hold on."
Be right
That's
back.
so funny. That's so
And
funny.
you mentioned this being a wheel, and so there's one thing and also it being our own practice, and that reminded me of something that I was going to talk about in this episode too, um, which is that magic and witchcraft and paganism is very much related to the earth, whereas, January 1st, February 1st, March 1st, these are very, like, solid. It it is the day, and that is it. The day
Right.
is on the same time every year. Um, or, the week starts on Monday every single week, like, that's just how it is. So it's very structured, and and so
And man-made, man-made, where we impose
man-made.
them onto it.
We will say the structure, like, must do it at this time on this day is,
Like,
like, the masculine, whereas
yeah,
the, like, following what's actually happening in the universe is the more feminine, intuitive practice. So, like, just because Ostara is technically landing on March 20th, like, if March 20th in your area is cold and rainy and cloudy and blah, but 3 days later is gonna be sunny and warm and energizing, like, do your practice on that day.
I
Like,
love
it
that.
doesn't have to be set in stone on March 20th, the end.
I agree. Same goes with the new moon and the full moon rituals, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? That moon power doesn't disappear the moment, 24 hours is up. A few days before, a few days after, you can still honor the moon cycles. And I agree. I agree. Those
Yeah.
prescriptive practices,
Exactly,
they
like, this was
limit.
meant to flow.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do limit it, and it makes you feel like a bad person if you missed it, or you're
Yes.
doing it, 24 hours after someone else said that it was done.
And I will say that I have done that, like, "Oh my gosh, the full moon," and I rush and rush and rush, and the energy I bring to a ritual like that is not conducive to flow
No,
magic, you know what I mean? You need to be in a good,
exactly.
like grounded space, not frantic and worried that you're gonna be late. Because late to Mother Earth, like, she doesn't have a clock, like, her, I'm like, "Oh," I know, technically humans can perfect the planets are aligning at 3:24 PM, and this is the exact moment of perfection. We can ask look into the telescopes, put it in, math it out, but that isn't about that is all based on what people have observed for thousands and thousands of years of nature, and then we tried our best to put human words and constraints on it. Whereas, I mean, really, when you talk about winter, I mean, I mean, think about the groundhog. I mean, how is that the silliest tradition that a groundhog comes up, is a shadow, 6 more weeks of winter? I mean, that alone should show how silly our human imposition of calendars is on Nature, Mother Earth. Like, she's gonna do what she's gonna do. It's either gonna keep snowing or the sun is gonna come out like a, you know what I mean? Like, and some years are different than others. That's the whole point of the groundhog, is that it's all different. I mean, where I live in Southern
Yes.
California, it's like snow, legit snow, and, that's just unheard of, well, not unheard of, but very rare, you know? And so, it nature does what nature does.
It does. I was gonna say, like, Groundhog Day and the fact that people celebrate it and it's, activity done at school shows just how much our everyone is involved in witchcraft even though they call it holidays.
Totally, and
But
how funny that actually Groundhog's Day, since we're speaking of it, is on February 2nd, 2/2, which is like a magical, like, portal day anyway, so I think that's
and
just
it's
kinda
also in
hilarious.
vogue. Just saying.
Oh, that's right. How do I always forget that? I love Bridget and Imbolc, and that is, if we go a little backwards on the wheel of the year from Ostara, it's the last one that we celebrated, which February, and it was that midpoint between Yule, right in December, and then, spring, so it's that exact point of when, like, because what this means, spring equinox, is that there is equal day and night, that there's exactly 12 hours of day and exactly 12 hours of night. And the other time of year that there's this equilibrium, this, equinoxes in the autumn and the fall equinox in, September, right? Ish.
Yeah,
And so, yeah, September 20th or
yeah.
21st.
It's,
And then we have the
Mabon.
solstices. Right. Mabon, thank you. I always forget that one to celebrate, honestly, but it's important, as they all are, because they all hold their own, you know, power. But then so we
Eh,
have the summer solstice, which is when we have the most sun and the least amount of nighttime. Then you have Yule, which is the opposite, the most nighttime, the longest night, and
mhm.
then you just slowly, get to be lighter and lighter and lighter until you're equal, and then to summer. And I don't know, it's a beautiful, beautiful thing to like witness,
It
and pay attention
is.
to.
It is,
Yeah,
and I mean, a lot of the world has gotten away from that, at least in our part of the world, but
mm,
it's making a comeback for sure. Like, everyone's talking about it now. And it's
yeah,
starting to wake up to it and practice it and get back to the rhythms of nature, and
absolutely.
which is, how we should flow with the world.
Agree. I agree. It is really nice to start to see that pendulum shift again.
Yeah.
And I know it's happened all at once, but I'm glad that we're happen to be incarnate on this planet at this time. Be part of the shift, because I do think just even this podcast is a platform and a way to help people honor this type of natural living, and getting in touch with themselves, with the earth, with source, you know what I mean? And just like that flow.
Yeah. Yeah, we need that energetic connection with the earth to, like, balance out everything in our system, like our body, of, our sleeping patterns, our moods, our all of that. Like, as soon as you get connected into that, um, energetic field of the earth, like, just visualizing it, it's
Right.
amazing what your body can feel, the relaxation and, like, natural flow,
Mm.
if that makes any sense.
It really does. It really does. And I feel like it makes sense once you've done it. To
Yeah.
say it to somebody who is not actually surrendered to nature, because I have a 9 to 5 job, I have to set my alarm, I have to do, do. We're on such a schedule, such a clock schedule, in such a clock society. Somebody who is in that jive and life, I'm sure it's like kind of like, can you really feel it? But like you can. You feel tapped in. I now that I've noticed, I mean, I couldn't believe, after living my whole life with the moon doing its thing every month, that I've never noticed that energy shift of new moon energy to full moon energy. Once I just literally started
Mm.
tracking the moon paying attention to when it's full and, that releasing energy and when, it's new and that new intention energy, you know what I mean? Like all of that, like that you're energized and then there's a time to relax. It's a breathe in and a breathe out. It's a sunrise and a sunset. It's a,
Yeah.
equinox, full equinox. It's all of it. You need to not just inhale, 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 you know what I mean? And go, go, go. And I feel like society forgets that breathing out.
Mhm. For sure. And I mean, I my kids are in school, so like I have that alarm clock and we gotta get out the door by this time. And that
Yeah.
that part is stressful.
Yeah.
When it can just happen naturally. Like we still wake up around the same time, but it's not like it's totally different energy
Frantic.
when you can just wake up when your body is ready, like when, I mean, not this time of year, but in the summer, when it gets more spring-like outside, when you can hear, the animals in nature waking up outside,
Yeah.
it's just so much easier for your body to wake up and get to work. Or,
Absolutely.
'cause we all have jobs and things that we gotta do, whether it's, a paid job or a household job, it doesn't matter. We still have things to do.
Absolutely. And, I mean, it's just, really lends itself to something on my heart, which is, I'm glad, you're just my friend. And so I like to talk to you about things, but I think it can apply to, other people who are listening too. But like, it's so true because society, um, you know, really values, being punctual and on time and, sticking to those schedules and waking up and, make your body, do, fit and this and that, and it's just such a rat race, and to get where, to do what, you know, um, and it's an interesting thing to consider because right now in my house, we homeschool, as you know, and that is one of the most beautiful things to me is that I don't have to wake my kids up. They wake up on their own. They get a full night's sleep, and their little bodies and brains get to do what their little bodies and brains do to need sleep. You know what I mean? I wake up early and I meditate and yoga and, do TikTok videos and whatever because that's my time without them, and it's productive. And actually, it is actually filling my own cup spiritually to
Yeah.
wake up
You gotta do
early.
that too.
That, you know, um, but I will tell you, my husband, who thankfully works so hard so that I can stay home and homeschool our kids. Works a very labor intensive and long hour job. He is he lives his life by clocks and schedules and needing to
Mhm.
be placed on time and early. And it drives him absolutely batty and not that we live in a non-scheduled and clock-filled way. And it's a hard like I think he knows the benefits and like kind of, is glad in a way, but also like can't understand because he's so programmed to schedules, like, wonders, am I setting them up for failure later when they do have to get to a job interview on
Mhm.
time, not are able to wake up to a clock or things like that, but I don't know, there's just something beautiful about, like, my son yesterday, he, slept till 9, which was, like, very late for him, but then got up and he had a book and he was just like, "I wanna read this book." He read it from cover to cover, and he's not generally a big like, I mean, he reads, but not, like, in the morning, like, it just was, weird, but I was like, for 3 hours, he sat there and read that book from cover to cover, and, like,
That's
some kids are
amazing.
readers, but he's
Yeah.
not, and so just, like, that was what he needed and wanted that day, and I was like, I don't know. We have so many days, like, if today the whole day was reading and tomorrow is math, like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, to me, that's okay, and it was what he wanted, it was what he was interested in, and it was, um, not based on a outside imposed schedule of but it's reading time. Reading, put your book away because it's math time now. Don't you know it is 5 o'clock? Math reading brain off, turn the interest off, turn, all of it off and do what I think is important for you to do. And like that, and trust me, I was a classroom teacher. So I am very used to providing the schedule and you listen to me because I'm the teacher. And so I had to de-school myself majorly before I started homeschooling him.
Yeah.
Give the power back to him because it's his education and his life. And actually, what I'm teaching him is because he generally knows, because he wants to go on screens and video games, it's all the normal kid stuff in the afternoon, but he knows he's got to get all his subjects done. And so I said, yeah, you can spend reading today and do math tomorrow. Well, actually, I lied. That's not what I do. I say, "You have to do all your subjects today. If you wanna spend 3 hours on reading, that's fine, but you still have to get done the math, all the other subjects too," because teacher. But, I know some people are very unschool flexible, but, it really he can self-manage his time and say, "I feel like doing math first today and science later," but he knows he's not gonna get to do all the fun things he wants unless he gets his stuff done, and so in a way, I feel like that's teaching him time management, but without the outside imposed structure. He's listening to his body, he is listening to nature, he goes outside and is so into, all of that, and is just so very in tune with
Yeah.
things.
I like that kids are able to do that so well before they've, gotten into the structures. And like we slightly got off on a tangent here, but to bring it
Yeah,
back to Ostara and this practice, like
right.
for those of us who do have a set schedule where we do have to
Yeah.
be certain places at certain times, we can set aside a day or an hour or 30 minutes even to be like, what feels like the right practice right now where I can just, what's happening in nature, where I can know what's happening with the sky, with the stars, whatever's going on, um, and feel that connection again. So, in the light of Osara here, it would be something like planting seeds or like looking at your goals of like what you want to feel or what you want to experience this year. Um,
I love
and
that.
so
So
that,
when you plant
yeah.
the seeds, do you do a little, like, ritual with that, or what do you do?
Yeah. So I've been doing this the last few years now, and I kind of like it. Because I'll see, I'll get like a little piece of paper, write my intentions down on it after I've opened circle and meditated and lit a candle and all of that stuff. I'll get a piece of paper, I'll write down what I want to manifest, what I want to create, if it's a feeling, if it's um, something I want to experience or something that I want to start and create. I'll write it on this paper. I can put little sigils on it. I can write little other symbols or whatever on it, draw little sketches on it. And then um, I'm repeating it in my mind. I'm envisioning it happening while I'm putting it into a pot of dirt and then planting seeds over top of it. And so then, like, every time you go to water that plant, um, it you're thinking about that manifestation or that desire while you're watering it. And so then as you see it sprout, as you see it begin to grow, you can see your manifestations beginning to grow as well. And I am no green thumb. I will tell you that right now.
Me
Um,
too.
I start plenty of seeds. I start all kinds of seeds. Keeping them alive later on through the summer months is the struggle, but the starting of this is great,
That's
and
awesome.
it's a fun ritual to start with.
I love that. I that just reminded me, my last Ostara, I planted seeds, and it
Mm.
just got this little kit at the Five Below store. Everything's $5 and under, and it had 3 different seeds. I was like, "Perfect," And, we went, we planted, and I didn't realize, but one was a succulent, one was a cactus, and one was sage, right? And the cactus, I said, "Don't water it that much because cactuses don't, they get a lot of water, so and then, the sage said water this much and, they each had very specific and I was like, "Oh gosh," because again, not a green thumb. I was like, "There's different directions. I don't need to just water them all," but and then as they grew, the sage sprouted right away and it was fast and it was growing, it was flowing out of the thing. And I was like, I think this cactus is dead. Maybe I didn't water it enough. Like I don't know. And then months later, little cactus popped out. And it was
That's so
just
cool.
so, like, such a message to me that, every seed that you plant, every intention or whatever, they need different things to grow, and they take a different amount of time to grow. Not everything
That's
blooms
true.
on the same timeline. So just
Right.
because you think your manifestation isn't happening, maybe it just needs more time. Or maybe you're
Right.
drowning it by putting too much effort and you need to step back. Or, there's just so much that could be said with that analogy. Um,
That's very true. I like that analogy too, and that's quite the interesting combo of seeds in one package. That's
I
kinda
mean,
cool.
thank you, Spirit. It was absolutely a guided message. Like that
Yeah.
happened for me to have this realization. And I think the
Yeah.
Spirit
I like
does
it.
that all the time, puts things in your path that if you're paying attention, could really learn something or hear a message coming through.
Absolutely.
So where did, like, Ostara come from? Like, tell me a bit about the background, like, of this holiday, because I don't know so much about all the different Wheel of the Year
Yeah.
Sabbath.
So,
Right.
I mean, we know that people have been celebrating different things around the year for and ever in various ways in various cultures.
Right.
Um, because that was the way people had to live, right? Like you didn't have grocery stores. Like you couldn't get fruit shipped from, a different continent
Right.
to be able to have fruit year round. So like you had to live by Mother Nature, you had to live by um your growing season in your area. So people were having festivities of some nature, some sort, um, at different times of the year. So at planting season, at the first harvest, at the
Right.
last harvest of the year, all of these different times. The wheel of the year, though, that term I heard, I think I learned like maybe last year that it was pretty recent that the wheel of the year, that term or that specific calendar wasn't coined until the 1960s, which I
No
had no
way.
idea that that was so recent.
Yeah, I thought that
Um,
it was more ancient.
right, like everywhere I've seen it written, it made it seem like this specific set of um, names and titles had been there forever, but really, um, it hasn't been all that long. It was started by Gerald Gardner, or the term
Yeah.
was started in the Wicca tradition. Um, can't think of the guy's name now. It wasn't Gardner, but someone in his like
Okay.
upper circle when he was creating Wicca. So the term got coined in
Okay.
that decade, that time frame, and a lot of the traditions had already been there, but
Mm.
a few things were added in that, or a few terms were added in order to like make it that full, like balanced circle.
Oh, okay. Uh-huh.
Yeah. Now, I mean, like I said, people have been doing this in some form forever because you needed to plant your seeds at a certain time and harvest your foods at a certain time. But that was super interesting that the terms are actually pretty new
Yeah, I
and
had
from
no
Wicca.
idea.
Yeah. And I mean, like, I don't follow Wicca. It never really spoke to me of something of interest, but we all take, what resonates, leaves the
Right.
rest, and
Right.
I'm very eclectic in my practice. So, I pull from several different practices or oh, I can't think of the
Tradition.
word.
Yeah,
Traditions. There we
I know
go.
what you no, that's not right
Yeah.
either, but I know what you're saying.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
um, and so for Ostara, it's
Mhm.
also one of those holidays where what is the major celebrated holiday that's close to Ostara in the US?
Um, I do know this one. I do know this one. I was like, "Wait, is this a trick question? Was I supposed to know this? Did we practice?" And I was like, "Wait, oh, no, I totally know this one." Easter. Easter.
Yeah, Easter.
Ostara. Easter. Yes.
Yeah, and
Are they
so
related?
yeah, a lot of the symbols are the same, right? Like you see rabbits and eggs
Rabbits?
and all of these things everywhere.
Right. Yeah.
Um, so it's
Oh,
all
'cause, like,
symbols of fertility,
fertility.
right? Because yeah, because like the earth is about to
Fertile again.
accept,
Mm.
things growing again. Yeah.
This is all making sense.
And there's actually, and I don't know when this goddess came into play or like, it's hard to tell. Like I haven't heard much about her until recent years, but Estre. So
Mm,
Eostre. So the
straight.
goddess Estre, I
Mhm.
may be butchering that a little bit.
Sounds good to me.
uh, but it's similar to the sound of Easter. So
It
it
did.
lines up. And
She's a
she
goddess?
is, yeah, she is a goddess. She is the
Okay.
goddess of new beginnings, of spring, of the
Uh,
earth waking up again. And therefore is in line with Ostara. Um,
right.
and a lot of what I've heard, and I mean, we've seen it everywhere, right? Like the major holidays celebrated in the US are very close to the pagan holidays.
Yeah, Christmas,
Yeah,
Yule.
Yule,
Uh-huh.
right?
Right.
Um,
Definitely. And then Halloween, Samhain,
yeah,
and there
exactly.
is some similar vibes, you know? Very
Um,
interesting. Interesting.
because, you know, uh, and
And
I don't have any like resources to link here, but why do you think they're so similar? Because Christianity started taking over and wanted the pagans to come along. So here's this celebration that is very similar, but celebrates the ideals and the, people of the Christian faith.
interesting.
So they kind of all
Glorious.
flow
Yeah.
along. And here we end up with a pagan holiday and a Christian holiday in similar time frames, similar
Okay, my
styles.
mind you're you're telling me that this was the whole reason why Easter's associated with bunnies and eggs, and that has nothing to do with the Christian reason, and everybody who celebrates Easter is like, "I don't know where bunnies and eggs," like, because bunnies don't lay eggs, and so it's just all strange that those 2 came together, and for Easter, which is like the resurrection of Jesus Christ in the Christian tradition, you know what I mean? So, like, how does it all jive? And you're just, kinda like, "Okay, whatever, I'm gonna eat my Cadbury eggs," and keep but really people so the Christians, if they're going on egg hunts, are I don't wanna touch step on too many toes here, um, but honoring pagan traditions?
Yes.
Oh,
And I
okay.
mean, like we talked about the groundhog and like
Right.
the Yule Christmas, the silent Halloween, like all these things line up, and a lot of things come from these pagan traditions that we
Yeah.
do every day that people don't realize.
Well, I
But
mean
I will say also the story. So I didn't grow up with any kind of religious background, but one of my teachers, Kyla Gray, he talked about Easter, the Easter story one year. And that was his version was like, this makes so much sense, right? So like there's this resurrection, right? So like Christ was um I mean he was dead, right? Like he
yeah,
was in a tomb.
yeah, right, right. Yep.
And Mary went to visit
Everybody
him.
agrees on that fact.
Okay. Well, there we go. We have one agreement.
He
um,
died.
yes. So Mary went to visit him, and
Mary Magdalene or Mother Mary? Mary Magdalene. I'll just correct
okay,
or jump in.
Mary,
Mary Magdalene.
we'll go with that one.
which is,
Um,
just I gotta plug this in there for whether you're Christian, non-Christian, Mary Magdalene, who they said was a whore and all these other things, was actually Jesus's lover and twin flame and part of his
there we go.
mistress. But anyway, go ahead.
Okay, so that is the proper Mary that we're talking about here. That
Yes,
yes,
Magdalene.
she went to go visit his grave. He was
Right,
not there because he was dead.
right,
Um, and then this other person that she didn't recognize came to her. Um, and so actually she was a medium and was
mm,
seeing this person come to her, but she didn't recognize him because, he wasn't flesh and blood anymore. He was an energy, right? So she was a medium feeling this energy coming through her that was familiar, but like she still didn't recognize who it was. And so she went to the elders and said, "Hey, like I'm still talking to him, I'm still hearing him. He has risen."
right.
But then what happens to Mary? Because all of a sudden here's this woman who can talk to um this, soul who has crossed over and she can talk to him still.
Right.
And so what happens to her? She ends up with bad titles and no power. And we don't really know, as far as history goes, like what really happened to her after that. Like, I know there's a lot of suspicion of what may have happened or where she went, but, you know,
So
that,
interesting. It's so
yeah.
interesting.
And I do not tell that very well, but his version, when he did tell it in a great way, made so much sense to me that she was a medium and she didn't
Right,
recognize him because
right, right,
he
right.
was, in an energetic form, not in a flesh and blood form.
Right. That's so interesting. I love
Yeah.
that you shared that, and that I think you did a great job of it.
So
You know, uh, um, so I do think that that's interesting, and maybe something that our listeners hadn't heard and might want to, do a little, peek into Mary Magdalene.
yeah. Like I said, I didn't grow up in a religious setting or with Christianity, so I'm very much still learning as I go. So if I offended any one of my Christian friends or completely butchered some part of that, I did not mean to, and I am very sorry. Um, but like that's my take on it. That's how I understand it. Being someone who found paganism more sooner or understood paganism first. So
I mean, I think that you very respectfully, um, addressed the topic, and I agree. I hope we didn't offend any, Christian listeners, or, I have family and friends as well, because it's not about, "Oh, I think your religion is bad," or, "I think that you're, wrong," or whatever. This is just my beliefs, your beliefs,
yeah,
and I think that it's really important to open up a discourse, a dialogue, so that we can better understand each other. And what I just think is fascinating, if you can get out of the doctrine, of it
yeah,
all, is that, wow, this makes sense. There is a connection because historically, we're not in isolation. Historically, they did influence each other. There is a reason why on this Easter, resurrection, Christian holiday, the kids go look for eggs left by bunnies. You know what I mean? Like that, because there's this connection there. And so I think it's important
yeah,
for the dialogue, even for Christians to be like, oh, well, I don't believe anything that she says about Jesus, Mary Magdalene, but it is very interesting to know about this egg, you know, um, connection. And speaking of eggs, I have this adorable book. I'd like to give it a shout out. This is by Moon Dust Press. They do a lot of like magical kids books. And this is called Flora and the First Day of Spring. And I love it. It is a simple and sweet wheel of the year story highlighting core themes of the spring equinox like growth, fertility, and grounding. And it's by Kathleen Converse and Hannah Sultanova. I apologize if I butchered that name. And it's a cute little storybook. But the best part, well, not the best part, but a great part about it is they have these activities in the back for you to do with your kids to um, help them honor the seasons, and, my name, which is a mother, obviously, like, I am, motherhood is an important part of my journey and teaching my kids and, you know, all of these things as well, and to be open. So this is a really fun activity to do with eggs. So it's a very similar to just a normal egg dyeing thing. So you could do this in lieu of, like, just when you're dyeing eggs with your kids, um, you could do this instead, or it could be a totally separate ritual that you do. But basically, you get hard boiled eggs, you get the white crayon, but what you're going to do is have them really think about what is their intention for the spring? What do they want to bring forth in this season? What are they planting? And you would already maybe do you don't have to do both, or you could do the seed activity and then the eggs, or one or the other. But it's a similar idea of what is your intention for this upcoming season, for this upcoming year, this upcoming new year, new season, all of it. And what I loved in the book is that they had, so you know how you have the different colored dyes. Well, they
Mhm.
paired the dyes because colors are generally associated
Oh,
with
yeah.
specific feelings and intentions. So, and these, you don't have to follow the book. You could do whatever feels resonant to you, but they chose blue for peace, orange for creativity, yellow for happiness, and green for love. And I just love that. And then you can
Yeah.
have the kids draw with that white crayon on their egg, symbols, either runes, sigils, or just symbols. Like happiness could be a happy face. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't need to be that. But also if you're teaching your kid, runes or things like that, and you want to bring in, they're looking for some wealth for their, whatever, you put in, like that's great. You can definitely, depending on where you are with your practice and what you want to teach your children, use this as a opportunity to teach the traditions. Or it could be as simple or as complex. It could take as little or as long as you want. It could be, like I said, when you're dyeing your regular eggs, you could just say, like, hey, it doesn't need to be a big thing, especially if you're like maybe with family that is not so witchy, and you don't want all the judgments, you could what else and think like, oh, look, blue is peaceful, yellow is happy, green is luck. I mean, those are very common
Yes.
associations as well that don't have to be
Mhm.
witchy. And say, like, hey, do you want this to be your lucky egg? Do we want to bring luck to us? Let's go ahead and draw a four-leaf clover on here and put it in the green dye. Now, if you want to get a little more witchy, the book does have um, some ways to do that. So, besides the colors and the symbols, when you place your eggs in the cups, it says that you can wave your hand over the cups while you wait for them to color and saying what you want 3 times because magical
Mm,
3.
there
Peace,
we go.
peace, and so it adds an extra layer of that magic, depending on where you are and in your practice and what you want
Yeah.
to share with your children. It also says you could dance around the egg for 2 minutes, to raise the energy. And I think that's great, either dance, skip. I mean, isn't that what the maypole is all about? Going back
Yeah.
to
That's
all
the
the
next holiday.
celebrities. Oh, good. I can't wait. I can't wait for all episodes, where we talk, I think we'll do one on each major Sabbath,
Yeah.
how do you,
Sabbath.
and then Sabbath, thank you. And then also, different moons, full moons,
Yeah.
episode. And anyways, back to the eggs. So you could dance around it, you could clap, you could stomp your
My
feet,
kids
raise
like
that
the
energy.
my kids like the wands that we made one year, so, like, they could use their little magic wands to, like, point at
Absolutely.
each one, yeah.
Absolutely. And so, yeah, and then when they take out the eggs, it magically shows the rune or the symbol, so
Mhm.
that's very magical for them. And it says that you can eat your egg to make the spell come true or place it in a special place for the day. So that again is
Okay.
private practice, whatever you wanna do. There's not a right way, like, "Oh, if you don't eat the egg, it's bad luck." Like, no, 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 no. Do what's right for you and your kids. The kids will
Yes.
take eggs. Don't tell them that it's gonna be bad luck if they don't eat the egg? Um,
That would be the worst
Also
ending to the day.
right, yes, like, totally. But, I think it's really, um a way again that you can blend what you follow. Like if you
Yeah.
could then hide them and just go on a traditional Easter egg hunt with them as well. I think that's what I'm gonna do. So I'm excited to do
There you
this
go. Yeah.
activity with my kids. I'm actually not sure when the real Easter is
I
this
don't
year
know
because
either.
that's what too. But anyways, I'm very excited um,
Very
for
cool.
all these activities.
Yeah, yeah, that'll be fine. Like, maybe this year we'll actually dye eggs in our house too, because the kids have been
Oh,
asking for years to do it,
yeah,
and I never get around
yeah,
to it. So maybe
yeah.
maybe this will be the year.
Right, and also, of course, we'll pull cards because I love
Yes.
cards. I have so many decks that I use with my kids too. We'll probably use this secret garden deck because,
Yeah.
the springtime, and it's so simple. They're tiny, so I think they're great cards for kids because 'cause they're just so small, and, like,
Oh,
on the back, it just has one simple message, like, that says persevere, and then it has, leave no stone unturned, and so I think that might help them, with what they need to kinda help guide them from spirit and their higher selves in grounded into their body of what is it like, you can think, "What do I want to bring in?" with your head, but you can also
yeah,
get guidance with, "What is it that I need to work on in this season?"
absolutely. That's really cool. I like that. Um, I used my Kyle Gray deck. I just pulled this out for like the first time in a couple of years earlier this week. So I pulled a card for us at the beginning of the episode before we started recording. And guess what? New
Oh, no, right.
beginnings. The perfect
New
card for this time of year when we're cleaning out our houses, doing our spring cleaning, and starting something new, starting something fresh, and finding these new opportunities. So, perfect card.
Absolutely. Like, perfect part for us starting this new podcast together as well,
Exactly.
I just add to the Ostara episode, I just love that that came out. I love that that came out. And I had an idea. I actually, came up with a little Ostara tarot spread that people can do, and actually it
Awesome.
doesn't have to be tarot, it could be oracle as well.
Anything.
So if you have a tarot deck, if you have an oracle deck, you can pull it out. You can, do this along with the video, you can do it afterwards. Don't forget to check the show notes, though. We are gonna be dropping a lot of goodies down in there.
Yeah.
One of them is gonna be the tarot spread, of course. Also, Ash has a very awesome surprise for you. I don't know, do you wanna tell them what it is?
Yeah, I am going to be drawing a wheel of the year for you, and you'll be able to print it. So you can print it on regular paper or even watercolor paper, and then paint it in or color it as you
That is
desire. So that's going to be
so
cool.
exciting. Ash is, like, an amazing artist for those of you who don't know,
Nice.
and so this I really can't wait to see it, and I can't wait to print it, and I can't wait to color it, and this is, again, an activity you could do for yourself or for with your kids,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
to talk to them about it, which I think is great, although I love adult coloring, let's be real. Um, so, yeah, I'm excited, and I'll also drop the name of the book that I was sharing as well,
Yeah, we'll
and if
have
there's
all
a
that stuff in the show notes too.
yeah, check it out, check it
Yeah.
out. All right, let's see it. So, the tarot spread that I came up with, so I was looking, different, Ostara spreads, spring equinox, new year type things, and, one that really called to me, because of the whole, like, planting and seeds and growing, feeling of it, was like, what do you want to how did it go? What do you want to, weed? What do you want to water? And what do you want to grow?
I like it.
And yeah, it's nice. But then when I was telling Ash about this, it was so funny. I'm gonna tell the story because I didn't come up with this on my own, but she was like, "Oh yeah," she was repeating back, and she was like, "Okay, weed, so grow," and I was like, "Oh, it rhymes." Like that's fun. I love alliteration, teacher. And so I was like, "Okay, we got to think of another word for weed that ends in oh," and I was like, "Hoe." So that's gonna be our spread. It's gonna be hoe, sow, grow. All right. What do you need to hoe? You need to get rid of out of your life right now. What do you need to sow and plant, and what is going to grow? So
Perfect.
I pulled cards for the collective from my two decks. I used the Ethereal Visions tarot deck, and I use that secret garden deck that I showed you about to see
Yeah.
what do we need to hoe out of our life, what do we want to sow into our lives, and what will grow as a result. So, very interesting cards that came up for the collective. Um, what do we need to hoe and get out of our lives? It's the devil.
Yeah, of
I
course we
mean,
do.
of course it is, right? I mean, like, that is the, epitome of bad habits, unhealthy tendencies. It could be negative self-talk, thought patterns, negative thought patterns, self-sabotage. It could be drugs, it could be alcohol, it could
Yeah.
be toxic relationships,
Addictions.
addictions, right? All of those things, those vices that you're leaning into, and it's gonna be different because it's a collective message, but we've all got them. We've all got a vice, whether it's food, drugs, alcohol, religion can be a vice that some people just dive too deep into, in my opinion. I see the devil card as you need to look and see where are you having unhealthy habits, whatever, and just real be honest with yourself. And
Yeah.
then the card that came along with it from the garden deck was surprises, which I thought was an interesting pairing. But what it says is venture down the rabbit hole. Oh, I think this is the opposite. This is don't venture down the rabbit hole. Devil, that's where the devil leads you, right? Is right down that rabbit hole. And you know your own rabbit hole. I don't have to tell you. We all know what it is. And it's going to be, like I said, different for everyone. But that is what we need to leave. That's what we need to, in order to move forward this spring season, we need to get our addictions and unhealthy habits um, curbed. And social media could be social media addictions, gambling addictions. Like there's just so many different kinds of vices. But I also don't want to um, um, discount that it's also thought patterns,
Yes.
unhealthy
Yes.
thought patterns about ourselves that we can let go. Because somebody might be like, well, I don't drink, I don't smoke. Actually have a really healthy relationship with my spouse, and so they may not see what devil is in their life, and it could literally be thought patterns. So I just
Yeah.
wanted to bring that out. I think that's important for
Yes.
someone in our audience. I don't know
Oh,
who.
yeah.
But I Spirit was like, "Say it again. No, say it again." So, okay, we're moving on, moving on. So now, after we, weed that out, after we hoe that out of our garden, what is it that we are gonna sow in its place? Because when you take something out, you need to fill the vacuum with a
Mhm.
healthy habit, right? So if you stop, drinking alcohol, fill it with water. If you are going to, stop, doing negative self-talk, fill it with affirmations. You know what I mean? Like there has to be that flip side of it. So
Yeah.
now that we have that vacancy, we have addressed what we need to work on, what we need to get rid of. Now we need to sew something in its place, and it's so beautiful. What we need to sew in its place is strength,
Nice.
strength, and beauty, strength and beauty. And it says here to dare to be tender and strongly vulnerable. So the strength card, whoops, that's the back of the card. The strength card is so interesting. And this is not the traditional Rider Waite Smith deck. I remembered the Smith,
There
that
we go.
female, the illustrator. Never gonna forget that again. Thank you for reminding. But you can see this woman has got a lion here, gently taming this lion, and that is a traditional Rider Waite Smith imagery, not this deck, but that symbology of a woman taming a beast, strength,
Yeah.
but is she our vision of strong? Because the deck has, manly knight characters that the illustrator could have put on this strength card of brute strength. However,
Yeah.
that's
Different
not
kind of
what
strength.
it's not that kind of strength.
Yeah.
Exactly. It is gentle strength. You can be strong, strongly vulnerable. So when you take out that devil, when you hoe that stuff out, you you need to add in strength, but in vulnerability. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
To actually let people maybe know the struggles that you went through. Your devil is actually probably somebody else's devil. Not probably, is. We
Yeah,
all face the same
someone
things, the
else
same
out there.
cycle. And, I think a lot of the reason why social media is so big right now and such a big platform is that it's a way to connect with people to realize we're not alone. Someone else is going through it. And people who get on
Yes.
social media, who share their stories, aren't necessarily doing it to become famous, but so many of them say, like, I just want, when they're telling like heartbreaking stories, I want someone else who's going through it to know that they're not alone. And like, that's just so powerful. Like, I'm getting goosebumps, like,
Yeah,
it
same.
you need to be vulnerable, and I think that's part of us coming onto this podcast, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like, if you look at my TikTok, you do not see my face. You see my hands, magic hand lady with cards, and I deliver them, but I am not vulnerable. You don't know about my life. You don't know who I am. You don't see my face. I am anonymous, but this podcast, life, has asked me to be vulnerable, to open up, and I
Yeah,
am showing up. I'm showing up here, and I think that's what Spirit is asking everybody to do, is to show up, be vulnerable, open your heart, and be tender, and
vulnerability is strength.
exactly. Exactly. That's it. That's it. And if we can be vulnerable, that's what we're sowing. That's what we're filling this vacancy with when we let go of those unhealthy habits and tendencies. You fill it with your strength, your vulnerability, your tenderness, your beauty. What is it that will grow? You're not going to believe this. And I swear to God, I did not handpick these cards. They came out for the collective, just like your New Beginnings card,
Yeah.
beginning,
Oh, of course it is.
and the cherry.
Oh,
Like,
nice.
moving forward,
Oh,
which is just so much, spring energy. Because also this marks the beginning of Aries season. That's the
yeah.
astrological start of the new year as well, because when you look at natal houses and everything like that, house 1 always starts at Aries, and then it progresses through them. And so astrologically is the start of the new year as well, and Aries
That's an
season
interesting
is,
connection. I like
yeah.
it.
Aries season is go, go, go. Aries rising here. So I know. And the chariot is my birth card. So I know I am feeling this energy. And I shared with Ash and a few other people, like I've done some inner meditations like at this gate. And like, what is this gate that I'm approaching? And it's a literal like horse gate where it's opening up and rushing out. And that's the energy that's coming for everybody in April. That is the collective energy, is the chariot. Things are about to start moving. If it hasn't seemed like this year, this 2023, like I said in the beginning of this episode, hasn't gone how you planned, don't worry. That was like a false start. You know what I mean? Like, back to the, gates. We're going to start again. This is a new base. It is a new season. It is a new year. It is a fresh start. And we can get rid of those old habits, those things that are holding us back. We can step into our strength. Being vulnerable, I think, is the key. You can be strong. You can like
Absolutely.
say like, I'm going to be strong and not do those addictive things. But if you're not filling that with the strength, um, you're not going to get this movement forward and these
Yeah.
new beginnings. And it says, don't be afraid to start small. Okay. I think that's a huge message.
Yes.
That motion, an object in motion stays in motion. Whatever you need to let go of may be huge for some people. And you may be like, I can't, like, maybe you're in a toxic relationship and it's like requires a divorce and you're just like can't wrap your brain around how that is going to happen. Or, you are really addicted to a drug, you know what I mean? And you're just like, I need it. I can't, and you just really don't be afraid to start small.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to just take one step. Reach out for help. And help is out there in the 3D, but it's also from above. You can
Mhm.
ask your guide, you can ask your higher self, you can ask spirit for help. And once you ask and open that, I think, you'll be surprised, a lot of people, at the help, the way that help comes in, and it does things you didn't think were possible. You really can do it.
Yeah. And I've heard the chariot defined as the thing that gets you from like the early stages of the journey and it takes you into the later stages. So like it's just what's growing is like that first stage that will get you to the further stages. It's like it's just that thing that
Absolutely.
gets you to the next place.
Yeah, you just like hop on and then let the chariot kind of do the work. Like it's that first step, that
Yeah.
decision, realization that you want to not do that thing anymore, the vulnerability to be open, ask for help, and then hop on. Take one step to get on that chariot and it'll pull you forward.
Yes, it will.
That's
All
beautiful.
right. Well,
I
that was
I love
amazing. Yeah, that was
thank you guys
amazing.
everybody for being a part of that. That was a beautiful message for us for this upcoming spring season. This whole episode has been so fun and amazing to do. And I can't wait to look forward to just so many more episodes of exploring ways to, you know, for people to take magic and bring it into their daily life.
Exactly. So I thank everyone for listening and following along. If you have any questions, email us at magickallifepod@gmail.com, which will also be in the show notes. And we'll see you in the next episode.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks so much for tuning in to this episode of Your Magical Life. We hope you enjoyed it. Drop a comment and let us know what you liked and what you'd like to see more of.
We love hearing from our listeners and featuring your most requested topics in our Q&A section. Be sure to like, subscribe, and follow, and don't forget to check the show notes for bonus content.
Send us your stories, questions, and comments to magickallifepod@gmail.com.
And we'll see you next time as we continue to explore, create, and manifest more magic into our daily lives.
Until then, I'm Crystal.
And I'm Ash. Take care and keep making magic.